So you're finally ready to buy a property, which is very exciting, but it can be a very overwhelming process for a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, and a lot of things can go wrong during the buying process. So in this video, I'm going to break down the entire process from start to finish and go over the 10 steps to buying a property. Let's get into it. And step number one is you want to give yourself like a financial checkup and evaluate your financial position. Do you know what type of property that you want? A condo, a townhouse, a single family home? Do you have enough money saved up for the down payment? How much down payment will you be putting down? Do you know if you're going to be financing it or paying cash? So you just want to give yourself a financial checkup and really evaluate your situation. At this time, it wouldn't be a bad idea to explore Calgary and kind of figure out what neighborhood you'd potentially like to move into, maybe check out some open houses. So at this point, you haven't really gone into the bank, you haven't really talked to any mortgage brokers yet, or viewed homes with real estate agents. You're just kind of giving yourself a once over and kind of doing some long-term planning. Point number two is the down payment. So once you figure out what type of property you want and the price range, it's now time to save up for the down payment. Now I mention this because a lot of buyers assume that they have to have 20% down in Calgary, which is not true. You could put 5% down, 10, 20, you could put 50% down if you wanted to. But I would say the least amount that you could probably put down is about 5%. There are plans to do, it's called a flex down mortgage, where we get you approved for a line of credit, and that is used as the down payment. So it's kind of like a zero down plan, only suitable for some buyers. But I would say for most people, they're putting somewhere between 5 to 10% down. So don't assume that you have to have 20% down to enter the market. And this could also be a good time to talk to your mortgage broker or your financial advisor and look at options like RRSP loans, tax-free savings account. You can be creative to find ways to save up for the down payment. So don't just assume that you need 20% down, and also look at some creative options to help yourself get into the market. And point number three is you want to get a mortgage pre-approval. This is definitely very important, one of the most important steps in the entire process. And what this is, it's kind of like an estimate. So you go into the bank or you talk to your mortgage broker and they'll take a look at your situation. They'll say, based on what I'm seeing, based on your income and your credits and your debts, I think you can be approved for this amount and the payments should be around here. And it's a good estimate for the most part. And this will help you kind of budget and kind of plan accordingly. So you don't want to skip this step. So you don't want to be the buyer that's running around, wasting everybody's time, viewing properties, writing offers, and the deal falls apart because the financing was declined. So you want to make sure that you do this so that you have a good idea that you can actually do what you're hoping to do. And in my opinion, I would use a mortgage broker versus the bank. I find they're easier to work with. You can call them, you can text them, they answer their phones. They're easier to get a hold of. They have longer working hours. And another reason why you want to use a mortgage broker is they just have more options available to them. If you go into the bank, they only sell their products. But if you go to a mortgage broker, they can deal with everybody. So they've got more options. And again, they're just easier to work with. And you want to make sure that they're actually giving you an honest pre-approval, that they've pulled your income, they've analyzed your debts, they've checked your credit score, and they've given you an actual pre-approval. Too often, the bank will just have an auto approval. Oh, you're good for $500,000, but they haven't checked your debt, they haven't checked your income, and you could be running around looking at properties, writing offers, and they just fall apart because there could be other issues on your credit that you don't really know about until you go through the process fully. So you want to make sure that you find someone that does their due diligence and gives you an honest pre-approval. And again, mortgage brokers, they just have more options available to them and they can put you into better products. Maybe there's a smaller bank payout penalty or lower interest rate. So there's just more flexibility when dealing with a mortgage broker versus the bank. And point number four is you want to budget for additional costs. So when buying a property, you're not just paying for the mortgage. So you got the mortgage, you've got property taxes, you could have condo fees, there could be homeowners association fees. Utilities are quite expensive in Calgary. And you want to have some money saved up just because there's always ongoing fees when you buy a property. It could be servicing the furnace, it could be repairs, maybe the roof sprung a leak, or landscaping fees. There's always something that you have to pay for. And so you just don't want to be house poor. You have to budget accordingly, that there are other fees involved with buying a property, not just the mortgage. And point number five, at this stage, you want to hire a good real estate agent. Now, I say good because if you find someone that's good, it will make everything so much easier. But if you hire the wrong realtor, it can make everything a nightmare. And there's quite a few of us out there. I think in Calgary, there's about 7,000 or more agents. but a huge chunk of them have 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out. And I think your typical agent sells about 2 homes per year in Calgary, which is below the poverty line. And they might be a bit desperate. So you want to find someone that's been in the business a while, that has some experience. And the general rule of thumb that you're looking for is someone that puts your interests above their own. That's the trick when finding a good real estate agent, and someone that works all the time. I would not consider anyone that's a part-time agent. This job is too difficult. There's too many timelines and things that can go wrong, that you need someone that's on the ball, that's punctual, and again, has your interests ahead of their own. Now, I find a lot of buyers out there are just going realtor to realtor to realtor. They're viewing one property with one, then going somewhere else with a different agent. I wouldn't do that. I would find one and stick with them and direct all of your questions to that agent. It will make it a lot easier. So you just want to find a good agent and direct all of your questions and book all of your showings with that agent. Make them like the one-stop shop, and it should make everything so much easier. And point number 6, at this stage, you've got a home search set up and it's time to start viewing properties. So this can be an exciting part for the buyer. This is the time where you want to be very precise. You don't want to have like a search, I want to buy a condo, a 1-bedroom condo in Calgary under $300,000. You're going to get thousands of emails all over the city and it won't be that much fun. So be very precise here. And by that I mean like age, style of home, beds, baths, garage, finished basements. Be precise on the quadrant. Northwest Calgary is very different than the southeast part of the city. And if you want to be very precise, if you go to the CREB map online, the city is broken down into different regions. For example, the west side has a southwest mailing address, so does South Calgary, but they're both very different. So ideally, you want to pick your quadrant, and you also want to pick the different region of the city. And do that first, and then narrow down the price range, then narrow down the home features. And ideally, you want to get to like your top 3 to 5 properties, view them all at once. If one of those fits, sure, write an offer. If it doesn't work out, then reevaluate your situation and then try again. So the general idea is don't be vague. You want to be very precise at this stage to save yourself a lot of frustration. And point number 7, so we've been viewing properties, you found the right one, and now it's time to write an offer. Now this is where a good agent comes into play because they can help you understand the market conditions. Our market is always changing in Calgary. We go through buyer's markets, flat markets, and seller's markets, and each product type is different. Each part of Calgary could be different as well, like it is right now. So you want to have someone that has some market knowledge and can help you structure your offer so that you get the property at the best terms for the current situation. Now, the offer itself, there's lots of different components to it. Obviously, there's price, possession date, deposit amount. I would say in Calgary, a deposit amount of $10,000 for most properties is usually sufficient. And this deposit is actually part of the down payment. Now, in terms of conditions, the most common conditions that you see in Calgary are financing, which is different than the mortgage pre-approval, which is just an estimate. The actual financing approval does take time, and the bank has to have a specific offer in place to get you financing. So they'll look at your situation again, and they'll also look at the specific property and do their own due diligence and make sure that everything is proper in their mind. So that does take some time. I would say between 5 to 10 business days in most cases to secure a firm mortgage approval. There's also a home inspection, so that gives you time to hire an inspector, and which goes through the property. They check like the structural, mechanical, electrical, cosmetic features, the appliances, and it will give you peace of mind that you're buying the right property. So I would never skip the home inspection condition. Another common condition in the contract is a condo document review. So the seller provides all the documents to the buyer, and my recommendation is for the buyer to bring these documents to a condo review specialist, and they'll go over the meeting minutes, the annual general meeting, the financials, the reserve fund study, and so on. There's all sorts of different information, and you want to do this because you're buying into a corporation and they have different rules and guidelines that you have to follow when buying the condo. So very important. You don't want to skip this step. So those would be the common conditions out there. And there are also terms in the contract, which I won't get into. But again, you just want to hire a good real estate agent that understands the contracts, they understand the red flags, and they can help you throughout the entire process, which should save you a lot of time and headache. And the next step is meeting with your lawyer. And I'm actually just going to back up a little bit here. So you've written the offer, it has conditions in it, your financing was approved, and the home inspection is good, and you're ready to proceed. At this stage, you would sign a waiver notifying the seller that you're okay with the conditions and you're ready to move to the next step. So once that waiver is signed, the home is officially sold This is when the sold sticker goes up on the for sale sign. We call this a firm transaction in the industry. So the sale is firm, and the next step is both the buyer and the seller, they choose their own lawyers. Now, once buyer and seller have their lawyers picked out, the listing brokerage will transfer all the documents to both lawyers. So all the paperwork we've done, so purchase contract, listing contract, any kind of waivers, amendments, deposit info, all that gets sent to the lawyers on behalf of the buyer and the seller. And the clients should meet with the lawyer in their office, I would say maybe 2 weeks before possession date, to sign their paperwork. So in very simple terms, the lawyer's job is to look over the paperwork, make sure everything is okay. They help with the transfer of home ownership, and they deal with land titles, and they help arrange the mortgage money and the balance of down payment. So that's the lawyer's job. And the last point here, let's talk about possession. So in my contracts, I always have a clause in there saying the buyer has access to the property 24 hours prior to possession. Now I do this so we can check out the property one last time and make sure it's in substantially the same condition as when we last saw it. So there's no fires, no floods, no major damage. Now, sometimes in contracts, the seller has to do certain things like professional cleaning, junk removal, fixing different things. There could be like a plumbing leak that had to be done before possession. So at this time, we go into the property to make sure those things are done. And a few more things to make your life a little bit easier. On the actual possession date, it's a bit of a random time when keys are actually releasable. It's whenever the seller's lawyer receives the money. It generally happens around noon, but don't be surprised if it takes a little bit longer sometimes. And if you have a possession on a Friday, sometimes it's delayed until Monday. So you don't want to be outside the property with a moving truck at 9 a.m. waiting for possession, because sometimes issues happen. There could be a delay with the buyer's funds for whatever reason. So don't assume that you can have access right at 9 a.m. and have the moving truck parked outside, because sometimes it doesn't work that way. And it's also a good idea to arrange your utilities well in advance so there are no surprises on possession date. And it's also a good idea to have all of your mail changed over. And the last step is to meet with the buyer and hand off the keys. And basically that's it. The property is now theirs. Well, there you have it. That's my step-by-step plan to buying a property in Calgary. It can be a simple and easy process if you follow the plan. Now, if you are out there watching this and you could use some help buying a property, feel free to reach out. In the pinned comment, I've got a link where you can submit your buying criteria to me, and I'd be more than happy to see what I can do to help you find the right property. I've also got a buyer's guide, seller's guide, and a relocation guide, all free for download. And don't be afraid to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, or send me a comment. I'm more than happy to help you out, and I will see you on the next video.